This week,
the United States of America cannot turn a blind eye. We can act carefully and responsibly to prevent a potential act of genocide.
The U.S. takes emergency measures to protect religious minorities facing extinction in Iraq. Plus, in harm's way, missionary doctors serve on the front lines of the Ebola epidemic in Africa. And churches are supposed to be places of sanctuary. Well, in Gaza, one is being used as cover for terrorists who launch missiles at Israel. The U.S. military strikes Islamic militants in Iraq to prevent a genocide. Hello, everyone. I'm Wendy Griffith. George Thomas is on assignment. Well, tens of thousands of religious minorities targeted by the militant Islamic State are trapped in the mountains of northern Iraq. The crisis forced U.S. President Barack Obama to pledge humanitarian and military assistance. As Gary Lane reports, Christians are among those forced to flee their homes.
Speaking from the White House Thursday night, President Obama said America is coming to help stranded Iraqis.
The United States of America cannot turn a blind eye. We can act carefully and responsibly to prevent a potential act of genocide.
When Islamic State fighters recently overran the town of Sinjar, more than 50,000 Yazidis fled for the mountains. Some men were reportedly captured and killed. Some women were taken as sex slaves.
This is a desperate situation, particularly for children. We know for sure that 40 children have already died. That's the numbers we can confirm, but it's probably much more than that. The situation for them is they're on the mountains, they're on the sides of the mountains, they've got no vegetation, no cover, they're sleeping out in the open, they've got no food, no water, no medical supplies.
President Obama ordered humanitarian airdrops to provide water and other needed supplies to sustain the desperate and dying Yazidis. And the president says the U.S. will not hesitate to launch military airstrikes against Islamic State fighters if they advance to the Kurdish capital of Erbil. One goal of the Islamic State is to clear its territory of all non-Muslims. It's already ejected the Yazidis, an ancient religious group similar to Zoroastrianism, from the northwestern cities of Sinjar and Zumar. The Islamic State is fighting to control the nearby Mosul Dam. That would give it control of the water and electricity flowing into Mosul and other parts of the northern Nineveh Plains. And more recently, at least 100,000 Christians have once again fled Karakosh and other towns near Mosul. Karakosh is the largest Christian city in the north. More than 500,000 Iraqis have fled fighting in the north since June. CBN Disaster Relief has provided many of them, including these Christians from Karakosh, with requested items like soap and towels, mattresses, pillows, and powdered milk. And back in Baghdad, perhaps it was the tearful plea of this Yazidi lawmaker that inspired U.S. action.
Our families have been slaughtered. Set aside your political differences. In the name of humanity, I call upon all of you to save us. To save us.
A plea that has finally found a response from the White House.
Gary Lane joins us now with more. Gary, and the U.S. is responding and
Yes.
with military action.
Yeah, there have already been 2 airstrikes against some artillery positions that the IS has controlled. We'll wait and see if there will be more.
You've been there many times. Tell us what's happening with the Christians there. How are they coping? What are they going through right now?
Wendy, 100,000 Christians from the town of Karakosh and some of the Christian villages around that area near Mosul are now on the run. They have fled up to Erbil. And when I was there over a month ago, just about a month ago, they told me, they said, where else do we have to go? Erbil's about it. Yeah. Some of them went to a predominantly Christian village up in the northern part of Iraq. But that's about it. There aren't many places left.
So their lives are literally on the line, and they've been given some options. Tell us about that.
Well, their options are: look, you either leave. If you stay, you pay a jizya tax, which is basically like mafia protection money, and you live under Sharia law, or you convert to Islam, or you die. We will kill you. So there aren't many good choices there.
Does the Islamic State in Iraq intend to drive out all the Christians? Is that their goal?
Yes, they want all Christians gone. They want other religious minorities gone, like the Yazidis. There are still about 25,000 of them up in the mountains that need to be rescued. The U.S. has dropped some humanitarian relief there. But this group controls about a third of Syria and a quarter of Iraq now. They want a solely Islamic state with Sharia law as their law of the land.
So extinction is a real possibility. How can our viewers pray right now? What can they do?
There are great needs. They have many needs. These refugees need to be helped. They need food. They need water. They need shelter, clothing, all types of items. So I would say it begins with prayer, Wendy.
Yeah.
As you pray, then the Holy Spirit will speak to you and tell you what you need to do, whether it's to give money, maybe it's to go yourself and help them, or just to write letters and call members of Congress and the White House.
This is a huge story. Gary, thanks for staying on top of it for
huge.
us. We appreciate it.
Sure.
Gary Lane. All right, CBN News is following the story closely, and you can check out cbnnews.com for the latest updates as well as exclusive reports from our reporters on the ground in Iraq. The Ebola outbreak in West Africa is now an international public health emergency. The World Health Organization made that declaration this week, calling for an extraordinary response to stop the deadly disease from spreading. Meanwhile, members of the U.S. Congress heard about the disease's devastation from the leaders of Samaritan's Purse and SIM. They are the Christian organizations whose missionaries contracted Ebola.
There is no way to count all the people dying of Ebola in the villages and in the remote areas.
If we do not fight and contain this disease in West Africa, we will be fighting this disease and containing it in multiple other countries around the world. And the truth is, the cat is most likely already out of the bag.
The disease has killed at least 1,000 people so far. Officials are concerned it will spread next to Nigeria. Nancy Reiterbol and Kent Brantley, the two American missionaries infected with the Ebola virus, are back in the U.S. and receiving treatment. Their story has been closely followed by the media, which doesn't usually cover the lives of missionaries. But recently, Heather Sells went to Charlotte, North Carolina, Nancy Reiterbol's hometown, to learn more about why she went to Liberia and how her illness is affecting those closest to her.
59-year-old Nancy Reiterbol and her husband David are no newcomers to the mission field. They've worked around the world and as of last year with the missions organization SIM in Liberia. This war-torn country has few modern-day comforts and is known as a difficult mission post.
David and Nancy Reiterbol are two of the most humble people that I have ever met. Their concern is for sharing the gospel to the world.
Their missions pastor, Jim Cashwell, says the Reiterbols recently felt called to use their gifts in administration and encouragement to help build up this hospital. It's desperately needed in a country where disease is common and doctors are few.
In Liberia, there are 50 doctors for 4 million people. They don't have the infrastructure because of the wars.
Nancy and her husband first felt the call to the mission field at a missions conference here at their home church in Charlotte more than 20 years ago. This spring, when Ebola began breaking out in Africa, the church asked them if they wanted to come home. Nancy and her husband said no.
We said, David, Nancy, let us bring you home. Let's wait until it gets safer before you return. And David and Nancy refused to come back because their statement was that they wanted to be where God had called them.
Not only did they stay, Nancy went to work on the front lines, helping to disinfect doctors and instruments used in the crisis.
You know, that's what Nancy was doing. When she's cleaning the instruments that are being used in the hospital, she's showing the love of Christ in a very practical way.
SIM President Bruce Johnson says the hope now is that Reiterbol and Brantley will recover and that research around their treatment at Emory Hospital will ultimately lead to a cure.
Kent and Nancy are the kind of people that would say, I'm willing to do this, to sacrifice in order that many more would be saved.
As the world has watched this literal life and death battle unfold, back in Charlotte, Reiterbol's church is also watching and learning.
The faith of David and Nancy shows a maturity that I think is teaching all of us. They know that God can move in at any time and can heal Nancy. But they also recognize that if God chooses to call her home, that He's going to bring a healing there as well. And that's the healing that we all hope for.
Heather Sells, CBN News.
Our prayers are with them. Well, up next, a Christian bishop in Gaza struggles to serve his flock under the oppressive rule of Hamas.
Hello, I'm Terry Newsom. Did you know there are more than 148 million orphans in the world today? 148 million. But it was 3 little girls that taught me about the plight of orphans. 8 years ago, my husband and I spent nearly a month immersed in the daily activities of a Ukrainian orphanage as we waited to adopt 3 sisters. I saw firsthand the utter loneliness, the pain of rejection, and the overwhelming desire to be loved. That experience changed me forever. And out of it grew a ministry from my heart called Orphans Promise. Today, we're helping orphans and vulnerable children in more than 50 countries worldwide. Thousands of children are now in safe homes. They're being educated, and they're learning life skills. I'm asking you to join with me and become family to these children. Will you call the number on your screen right now? Because every child deserves a chance to be happy.
Inside every child is a hero, a leader, a friend to others, someone who helps out, who does the right thing, who dreams of what they can be, but they still need our help.
What should I do? What should I say? How should I feel?
That's where Superbook comes in. It provides moral and spiritual truths through situations children can relate to, teaching God's Word to the children you love. Join the Superbook DVD Club and receive Superbook's newest episodes as they're available, plus 2 copies to share with others, all for your gift of only $25. Get Superbook today and watch the miracles happen.
Pastor Saeed Abedini's children are sending President Obama an emotional message asking him to help bring their father home. Pastor Abedini has been imprisoned in Iran for 2 years now, enduring torture for his Christian faith. His wife Naghmeh has desperately fought to get him back. Now the children are joining her plea.
Dear President Obama, please help bring my daddy home. I don't want him to miss another birthday or Christmas or Father's Day. Please help bring him home. Why does our daddy need to be in prison for loving Jesus? My heart cries because it misses Daddy. I pray that I'll come back home, but he's still not back home.
If that doesn't move you, I don't know what will. The American Center for Law and Justice is fighting for Pastor Abedini's release, and you can show your support by signing a petition at the ACLJ webpage. Like most civilians in Gaza, Christians are caught in the middle of the war between Israel and Hamas. The terrorist group is known for hiding behind hospitals, schools, and even houses of worship. As George Thomas shows us in this exclusive report from Gaza, it also used a church compound to attack Israeli citizens.
Archbishop Alexios is Gaza's most prominent Christian leader. His decision to open his church to 2,000 Muslims escaping the war surprised many Gazans.
Christ tells us we must love each other, our neighbors and our enemies. No other religion says that except the Christian faith.
Alexios and the estimated 1,500 Christians who live in the Gaza Strip walk a fine line between trying to stay alive and the Bible's command to share God's love. Since Hamas's takeover of Gaza in 2007, human rights groups have accused Hamas of imposing strict Taliban-style Islamic laws.
Islam is the rule of this place, and whatever Hamas says, we must obey or face consequences.
Alexios is now concerned about what comes next after the guns fall silent and the rockets stop flying.
There's a lot of anger on the street. We need forgiveness and love to flow.
He took CBN News to the roof terrace outside his office. He showed us how militants reportedly used the church compound to launch rockets into Israel. He refused to discuss details on camera for security reasons, but days after the war started, Israeli missiles targeted an area close to the church's sanctuary. This is what's left of one of two minarets that used to stand tall here along the Gaza Strip, not too far from the Mediterranean. It was a major mosque. It was apparently hit by 7 Israeli missiles. The Israeli government makes the argument that places like mosques, hospitals, and densely populated areas are routinely used by Hamas to fire off their rockets. Just around the corner from the church, Mohammed sits in complete shock.
I picked up the phone and the Israeli army said, I have 5 minutes to get out of my house. They were going to destroy it.
This is what's left of Mohammed's 3-story apartment complex. He, his 5 brothers, and their families lived in the building. Word on the street is the brothers are reportedly tied to Hamas and used the apartment to store weapons, a claim Mohammed has denied.
The Israelis attack schools, they attack hospitals, they attack mosques. You ask them. They know why. I don't know why.
This week, Israel's military released a map of Gaza showing dozens of positions from which Hamas fired rockets. Dramatic footage from drones flying above the strip also show Hamas firing from populated areas. Back at the church, Bishop Alexios says he's not out to pick a fight with Hamas or Israel. He simply wants to serve people.
We're disciples of Jesus. We must give love to everyone without condition.
George Thomas, CBN News, the Gaza Strip.
Thanks, George. Amazing story. Well, up next, can you be a Christian and a businessman at the same time? In Colorado, that answer is no. See what happened when one business owner took a stand for his faith.
Hello? Is this thing on? Hey, kids, do you love games? And do you love discovering things? Well, do ya?
Then you're gonna love this. It's the new free Superbook Kids Bible app. You can play games, watch videos, find answers to your questions, and a whole lot more. The new Superbook Kids Bible app. Free downloads available on iTunes and Google Play now.
CBNnews.com. News you want, when you want, 24/7. Stay current with up-to-the-minute stories.
Ephraim Graham, CBN News, New York.
I don't have to wait for my news anymore.
CBNnews.com at your fingertips all day long.
I only watch the stories I want to see.
I find the story, I click on it, and boom, I'm there.
Embassy in Washington, Eric Stackelbeck, CBN News.
The source for your news, CBNnews.com.
Hello, I'm Terry Newsom. Did you know there are more than 148 million orphans in the world today? 148 million. But it was 3 little girls that taught me about the plight of orphans. 8 years ago, my husband and I spent nearly a month immersed in the daily activities of a Ukrainian orphanage as we waited to adopt 3 sisters. I saw firsthand the utter loneliness, the pain of rejection, and the overwhelming desire to be loved. That experience changed me forever. And out of it grew a ministry from my heart called Orphans Promise. Today, we're helping orphans and vulnerable children in more than 50 countries worldwide. Thousands of children are now in safe homes. They're being educated, and they're learning life skills. I'm asking you to join with me and become family to these children. Will you call the number on your screen right now? Because every child deserves a chance to be happy.
Welcome back to Christian World News. What would you do if the government ordered you to violate your religious beliefs or face legal consequences? That's what happened to a Christian baker in Colorado who said he wouldn't make a cake for a same-sex marriage celebration. Mark Martin reports.
The sign on the door reads, "Celebrating 20 years of great cakes." And during that time, Lakewood, Colorado's Masterpiece Cake Shop has created art in the form of baked goods to keep customers coming back.
And what do you want it to say?
From cookies and cupcakes to signature cakes. Check out the mountain landscape on this one. Jack Phillips and his daughter Lisa have transformed their bakery into a studio. All of it, Jack says, inspired and motivated by his faith in Jesus Christ.
The most important thing that I think about throughout the day when I wake up, when I go to work, I want to know that what I'm doing is pleasing to him, that I honor him and his word, because that's the most important thing.
Jack's Christian faith landed him in trouble with the law. His crime? Adhering to his biblical belief that marriage is between one man and one woman. In 2012, a homosexual couple sued Jack after he declined to make a cake to celebrate their marriage. An administrative law judge ruled against him, and the Colorado Civil Rights Commission agreed. The commission stated Jack's refusal went against the state's public accommodation law. It requires businesses to serve customers regardless of their sexual orientation. In a public statement, one member of the Civil Rights Commission said, "I can believe anything I want, but if I'm going to do business here, I'd ought to not discriminate against people."
I didn't discriminate against anybody. Like Nicole said, I've chosen not to make cakes for same-sex weddings. I told David and Charlie when they came in that I would sell them cookies and brownies and birthday cakes and shower cakes. I just don't do the same-sex wedding cake. So I did not discriminate against them, just that event that I've chosen not to participate in.
Jack's attorney, Nicole Martin, says the commission violated Jack's First Amendment rights, and she's taken the case to the Colorado Court of Appeals. The Civil Rights Commission's order requires Jack and his staff to make cakes for same-sex celebrations if asked. He must also re-educate his staff about Colorado's Anti-Discrimination Act. Under that law, artists must endorse all views. The order also requires him to put in place new policies to comply with the commission's order. In addition, he will submit quarterly compliance reports to the government for 2 years. According to Alliance Defending Freedom, the reports must include the number of customers declined a wedding cake or any other product and include why, so to ensure he has fully eliminated his religious beliefs from his business.
The government has chosen which message it favors in this case. I think the state has made it very clear. Jack's First Amendment rights, Jack's freedom to express himself, or more importantly, not express himself, must bow to the complainant's message. And all I can say is what that looks like to me is something very frightening. And that's nothing more than diversity through conformity. And that's not diversity at all.
Jack Phillips' case is one of a handful in which complainants sued private businesses for refusing to accommodate gay couples getting married. It also helped lead to controversial proposals in several states, allowing businesses to decline service based on the religious beliefs of owners.
This case is not about, and it never has been about, the young men that came in here almost 2 years ago asking Jack to design and create their cake. This case has always been about the message that that cake expresses, what that cake communicates.
It's surprising. Yeah, this is not what they taught us in civics class. They could do this to you. They do this in other countries, not here.
So Jack stands on the First Amendment. In this case, we're going to learn whether the First Amendment has a future in America.
And in a country founded on freedom of religion and speech, that's a future important to all Americans. Mark Martin, CBN News, Lakewood, Colorado.
Thank you so much, Mark. And we'd like to hear your thoughts on this story. Post your comments on our CWN Facebook page. We'll be right back.
Give me that. Bye. Sure, life is busy, but I found a way to make a huge difference in people's lives. I guess you could say I'm changing the world right here from home. I bring medical supplies and doctors to people in need, and dig wells so that villagers can have clean and safe water to drink. I make it possible to preach the gospel in over 100 countries, including right here in America. And when disaster strikes, I'm there, providing food, thank you, and emergency supplies to give people hope again. Every day, CBN and I are making the world a better place. Here you go. My life is hectic, so I joined CBN through Pledge Express. My bank does all the work, and I know that my gift is being used where it's needed most. So become a CBN partner and join Pledge Express, because you can do a world of good right from where you are. Hi, good morning. Are you ready to get started?
We all want to live in the favor and anointing of God. We want His wisdom to solve problems and His provision for all we need. The Bible tells us the Lord has put eternity in our hearts. Each of us wants the certainty of heaven, to know our lives have purpose and that we are playing a vital role in accomplishing His plan for all mankind.
In Pat and Gordon Robertson's latest DVD teaching, Living Under God's Blessing, you'll discover how to receive wisdom to solve today's problems, the keys to provision for meeting all your needs, and how you can be a part of His plan for the world today. Call now to receive Living Under God's Blessing, featuring the 3-time Emmy-nominated series, Made in Israel.
May God bless you, and may you enjoy and live under the blessing of the Lord always.
Living Under God's Blessing, available now.
Finally this week, Christians are among the strongest backers of Israel. Recently, a high-profile visit by Christian leaders from the U.S. demonstrated that support. Here's Chris Mitchell from Ashkelon.
Christians United for Israel, known as CUFI, brought a group of 50 pastors and Christian leaders from every state in the nation and the District of Columbia to Israel.
To come and simply tell to the people of Israel, we support you, we understand you. There are still people in America who can distinguish morally between Israel and Hamas, and there's still people in America who appreciate what Israel's doing, not just to protect their own citizens, but we believe deeply when Israel battles Hamas, they're also protecting us in America.
They visited Sderot, the town where more rockets have fallen than any other in Israel. They found Israelis profoundly grateful for the visit. Bible teacher Billy Brim said the appreciation began on the flight over from a flight attendant.
She said, "Oh, thank you for what you're doing for our country." And that's what they say everywhere. Thank you for this. Thank you for standing with us. Thank you for coming. It's just amazing.
The visit provided a frontlines look at Israel's war against Hamas, including Israel's now famous anti-missile system, the Iron Dome. They also got a front row look into Gaza. For many, it was eye-opening.
To be here, to stand, to look over, it really embeds it deep within your soul as to the dangers Israel faces every day of her life.
Pastor Jay Bailey plans to bring a message back home.
I'm going to let them know that I looked over at the place where those rockets originate from, stood on the observation point in which tunnels are being developed and dug underneath, and this community here, Sderot, the dangers these precious people face every day of their lives.
They also expressed concern for the people of Gaza.
One thing that's really concerned all of us that's on this trip is the loss of life of innocent children and innocent civilians who are caught in this battle. We're praying for a cessation of violence. We're praying for the peace of Jerusalem. We're praying for the safety of the Palestinian people, the regular citizens. But we are praying that this nation will be wise enough to defend herself.
Yet they believe Israel's war against Hamas is just, an enemy of both Jews and Christians.
After the Jews come the Christians. After the Saturday people come the Sunday people. It's the same extremist theology that drives Al-Qaeda. These are people determined to kill Jews and Christians, Americans and Israelis.
Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Ashkelon.
Thanks, Chris. Well, Chris and the whole team have done such a great job, including my co-anchor George Thomas, of covering this latest war between Israel and Hamas. And thank you so much for all the prayers that our viewers have prayed for their safety. And please continue. Well, thanks so much for joining us this week. Until next week, from all of us here at Christian World News, goodbye and God bless you.